Get ready to hear from Shaila Miranda, professor of MIS at University of Oklahoma, interviewed by Abby Golub, social media coordinator at Prospect Press.
Everything that we do in business these days is evidence-driven. We're constantly refining our decision models based on the latest evidence on hand, from recruiting new employees to managing within the organization to managing brands, portfolios, what have you. Everything, hospitals, everything is evidence driven these days. So analytics is just a really important skill to get students involved with. In fact, we are pushing our analytics curriculum down into the undergraduate program because we think even our undergraduate students to some extent should be exposed to analytics. Social analytics. So what sells this course to students usually is the social media data. But I think it's much more about truly unstructured data. There is rich information in text. And if we're not analyzing that, if we're only analyzing things that have already been quantified, we are losing a lot of insights available to companies. More than social media, it's that type of unstructured data analysis, which I think is really important for students to be exposed to. So yeah, if brands are to be aware and proactive about their management, then definitely you need to be not just social media savvy, but digital media savvy. Websites, any kind of digital location.
How do you engage your students?
And the best way to get them hooked really is to have them work with data. Because cool. I think sometimes, telling people about topic modeling sounds very intimidating, but you get them doing topic modeling and it's like, oh, that's what I did. Now it doesn't seem like that big a deal, right? Because you sort of had them work through it. And then they're more focused on the insights without worrying that maybe they couldn't have done this. I'm very much into experience. And through experience, you discover what you're capable of, and you also discover what the data can tell you. Typically, what I will do is I have them organized into teams. So I'll have like a team of 3 with one data set and another team of 3 with a related data set. Then individually, they'll analyze those data sets, compare outputs, compare insights within the smaller group of 3, put it together with the more extended group. So for example, I had one team of 3 look at Twitter data on Bitcoin, and another group of 3 look at Twitter data on blockchain. So then, sort of related topics and how those come together.
What are some of the major student challenges?
Some are really intimidated by technology. That was also the objective of saying, let's go with something familiar like Excel, and NodeXL is just sort of an overlay on that familiar tool. And then we'll go to R, which seems more intimidating to a lot of people because if you haven't used R, there's really no getting off the floor with it. But then when we get to R, I'll give them code. So here's the code. Let's run it. Let's run it against a data set that I give you. The code matches the data set, and you look at the results. Then let's swap out the data set. So you have to change a few of the variable names, or you have to make a few tweaks in the code. So sort of incremental learning, right? Similar code, different data set. Then let's tweak it a little bit more. Right? Let's do something a little bit different, maybe combine that with something you've done before. So that's my approach when we get to R. Again, to give them something that works right off the bat, that minimizes that frustration they would otherwise experience. The other thing I wanted to do with my life was be a musician. And I started playing violin. My daughter plays violin. We both learned the Suzuki method. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
This is the one where you start when you're really little, you have all the songs.
Yeah, so you start with music you actually want to play, right? Because who wants to play scales? So, I mean, Suzuki kids do not start by playing scales. They start by playing songs that they hear, they sing. So it's the same philosophy. If I give them uh, a big problem, a data set, the code to solve a big problem, then they're hooked, right? I mean, this is not Hello World, which MBA student or a master student wants to have to write code for. But if I give them the code to actually analyze a Twitter or Facebook data set, then this is a sizable problem. And then we'll work through, okay, now how do we get the sort of nuances if we change the data set, kind of like, okay, now I'm going to change the key and let's see if you can play it in the different key. But if I know the song, I can do the transposition, and it's not that hard, right?
Please tell me about an unusual student insight.
Yeah. But this one student went back and somehow got data on ships' logs from 17th and 18th century. And he analyzed trade routes based on those ship logs. So he has this amazing social network of the movement of trading ships for that time period. So he looked at the networks of ports visited at different times of the year. And he came up with insights about how weather changed trading routes over seasons. So how they, might have gone a different route because of weather changes.
The header on your website, In Search of Meaning. Tell me more about how this relates to your work.
So ultimately, analyzing social space, analyzing what people are talking about, is about trying to make sense of how people see the world, what they find meaningful, right? That cover picture, for example, that tells us what the different topics are that people are talking about when they are talking about the Where is Ray merchandise, right? So there's, looking at the book, there's 5 different sets of different groupings. So very quickly I get a sense for what are the major topics, what are the ideas that people are putting together.
How did you hear about the Where's Ray example?
I have a now 15-year-old who was probably 10, 11 back then, and we were into Star Wars, and this was the first female character. So, holiday time, we're looking for the obligatory gifts. So this was really an opportunity. And then I started to notice, really in mass media first, with some lag, because it started to show up in mass media only around December. But as far back as October, parents were saying, hey, where's all this merchandise? You have this neat character showcasing a strong female role in the Star Wars series for the first time. How come merchandise isn't available? And it was months before the various companies involved started to even respond to that. There was a 9-year-old who wrote a letter saying, hey, I want to be able to play with these toys. How come you aren't making them available? And then one of the representatives of the companies wrote back, and then we started to see some of this moving out onto the shelves. But there was 2 months of delay before they even entered the conversation. We wouldn't see that now. I think companies are much more responsive to what's happening on social media. But that was like, how could they have missed this for so long?
How has being a woman impacted your career?
I think I've been very lucky. Right out of my PhD program, I had a few offers, and I heard that Carol Saunders, she wasn't yet on faculty at Florida Atlantic University, but she was going to be department chair. And when I heard that, I said, okay, I accept. So I ended up going there, and I owe her a lot. So you have, a strong woman, role model, mentor. It's not just that it opens opportunities, but it sort of gives you a view of what life can be like that you don't necessarily have without someone like that to model. But here too, we have a very strong group in terms of females. So right now we have Radhika, very strong female character, Alex Dersikova, another very strong woman. So we have some great women here, which, so I don't feel like I am female here. It's just I'm a member of the faculty. And I think that's what's ideal when, it's not really about your gender.
Thank you for watching. For more information and to request a review copy of the book, click the purple button that's about to pop up.